Please be seated. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is a good morning, and I'm so glad to be here. So, for those that don't know me, my name is Lisa Ozaita, and this is my family's home church. We started attending St. Clair's right after we moved to Washington in 2019. I remember that before we moved, we scoured your website and we stalked your Facebook to see who you were. You promised to be a church that was deeply committed to mission and that loved each other and welcomed everyone. And it sounded just like the kind of church that we wanted to be a part of. My wife and I, Myra, and Myra's there. I agree. We came to visit, and we came without the kids because we wanted to check you out. We wanted to see if you really were who you said that you were. And that first week, we sat actually right there where Peggy is, and Patty made sure to greet us. And she let us know that we were welcome, and she made sure to tell us to come to the table and have the Eucharist. And this was really meaningful. You all, the congregation, were really quick to say hello and to introduce yourself to us. Judy made sure that we had a hymnal, and Holly asked if she could make us a name tag. And after church, someone handed us a broom and told us they would love it if we could help, clean up after coffee hour. And we felt like this was really a place that we could belong. And so we did, and we brought our 4 kids, and they would come on Sunday, and they would be in Sunday school with Mary over in what is now the Essentials Warehouse. And during COVID, 2 of our girls actually did school in the warehouse. John Mark, our oldest son, was an integral part of the food distribution and volunteered here with me and with all of us many times. And then Heath took out our trash on Wednesdays for a couple of years. So this is our home church. In 2021, we left to go to Epiphany, Seattle. So I served 2 years there as a seminary intern and 1 year as their associate rector. And today we're back. And I'm so glad. And I'm so glad to be back, and I'm glad to be serving as your interim vicar. And I don't think that we could have had a better gospel reading today than the one that we have. So in today's reading, Jesus asks his disciples 2 questions. He says, first, will you go with me to the other side? And second, why are you so afraid? But before he asks these questions, remember Jesus was teaching. He's teaching all the people about the kingdom of God and what the kingdom of God was like. Remember last week we had the mustard seed. And now Jesus is on the bank of the Sea of Galilee. He looks at the disciples, who I'm not sure really understand all the things that he's teaching. But he says to them, come with me. Let's go to the other side. And this isn't an extraordinary ask, right? The Sea of Galilee, it was central to the life of all the communities that were around it. And you have Peter, Andrew, James, and John. They're all fishermen, right? So they're super used to being out on the sea. And I would assume they really didn't think much of this request. But the Sea of Galilee is really interesting. So it's situated below sea level, it's surrounded by hills, and it's also really shallow. And at first I was thinking, well, shallow's good. No, apparently not. Shallow's bad. So the fact that it's below sea level, it's really shallow and surrounded by hills means that storms come out of nowhere. And when they come, they're really fierce and dangerous. So the disciples knew this. I mean, everybody knew this. So the simple request to get into the boat and go to the other side could be either smooth sailing or a really tumultuous ride. But the disciples get in the boat. They had each other. They had Jesus. I mean, what could go wrong? And it must have actually started off okay because Jesus is sleeping, right? The storm starts to pick up, and well, Jesus is still sleeping. The disciples get really scared, and the text actually says they were terrified. They're experienced fishermen, and surely they've had lots of storms, but they don't jump in to secure this boat, right? Instead, they just kind of panic. They wake up Jesus and say, don't you care about us? Don't you care that we're about to perish? We're going to die. And I don't know about you, but I hate to be waken up from a nap, especially with an accusation. I feel like, they should have sort of gently waken him up and said, excuse me, sorry to bother you, but there's like this storm thing. Can you help? But when we're afraid and when we feel abandoned, we're not always on our best behavior. Jesus tells the storm to knock it off, and the sea becomes calm. And I love that he tells the storm, peace, be still. And isn't that what we say to each other every week? Peace be with you. It's almost like we're telling each other, may your storms be calm. Right? And then we respond, yours too. And so then Jesus and his disciples, they make it to the other side. We don't really know what all conversations were had in the boat for the rest of that ride. Other than Jesus asked the disciples why they were afraid, and he asked, why didn't you have faith? And I actually don't think that sounds super fair, really. I mean, the boat was being swamped with water. It did look like the boat could go under and that they could possibly all die. I mean, Jesus knew he could still the waters, and it seems like maybe the disciples knew it too. I mean, they did wake him up to, fix all of this, right? Although at the end of the story, they're filled with awe and wondering who Jesus was, that he could still the waters and the wind. So maybe they both knew and didn't know. And perhaps when Jesus is asking if they had no faith, and he was responding to their question, teacher, do you not care for us? Do you not care that we're going to drown? And the disciples lost sight of the relationship that they had with Jesus. The storm made them so worried that they forgot or lost focus on how much Jesus actually cared for them. And so Jesus asks them, do you not have faith? The undertones might have been something like, do you not have faith that not only do I care about you, but I love you? You are part of the plan of creation. I have not abandoned you. Don't forget this just because there's some wind and some waves. Storms will come and they will go in our lives, but our relationship with Jesus is constant. And then the story ends. They get to the other side, and Jesus continues his ministry of healing and teaching. And I like this story for today because St. Clair's is on its own journey. We've had this incredible blessing of having Patty be the priest for almost 20 years. Almost 20 years. It just doesn't happen. It's incredible, actually. And there were definitely times of struggle and hard work during those times. Think flood, right? Think COVID, and fill in the blank. But they were really, really good times. The church grew in its depth of ministry and its service. And many of you have known each other for decades. You've seen each other's kids grow up. You've been next to each other during times of illness, the death of loved ones, and during the joys of life. This is a community that has a very rich history. And when Patty retired, it was scary. I watched the recording when Ariane came here to talk to you all about the next steps, when she explained how long the process would take and the challenges that lay ahead. I could feel the oxygen leave the room, even watching it on a recorded video. And over the last 6 months, you've all come together to make church work. You've joined together to figure out all the things that need to be done, and there are lots of things that need to get done. You have had a good list of supply priests who have been here, and you've had the opportunity to share a little amongst yourselves. Hannah, I loved your story. So good, right? So powerful. And so there have been some really good things over these last 6 months. And you've pulled together, and I know it hasn't been easy. And so much about church community is about momentum, right? So when there's momentum, everything just kind of falls into place. And when there's not momentum, it feels like everything is super hard work and it doesn't quite come together. Momentum lags during transitions. It just does. It just does. And transitions make relationships harder. Tensions rise. Some try to just get the work done, and others can feel trampled on or unheard. And it is common for people to feel distant or start to cede away. And I don't know if you have experienced any of this, but it would not be a surprise to me at all if you have. Anyone in the church would agree that having a beloved leader retire is a storm that is experienced by the church. No matter how great the church is, it is just a hard time. But after any storm, there's this moment when things feel calm, almost still, and there's a pause. It is as if creation is just taking a breath. And I think that we are entering into that pause after the initial storm. We haven't reached the other side, but we do have time to breathe. And so I'm glad to be here as your interim. I am not your final solution, but I am hoping that together that we can live into this pause and find some stillness and some peace. It is a time to let the waves settle, and it is a time to reset. Over the next couple of months, we'll set some mutual ministry goals together, and we'll chart out the next stage in our journey together. But my goals for us, which are not wildly new or different or terribly innovative, are 1, to know and experience God together. 2, to connect and to support each other as a congregation. And 3, to serve our community with joy. There's a lot packed into each of those goals, and I look forward to unpacking them together. And I am so thankful to be on this journey with you. We'll navigate the waters of change and transition. We'll keep Jesus at the center. And we will remember that the faith that binds us together and the faith that we have can calm any storm. And together we will go to the other side. And one last note. If you feel like you have been in a storm, either here at church or in your personal life, and maybe you've asked, Jesus, do you even care? Do you even care what happens to me? Know that God says to you, you are loved. You are part of the plan of creation. You are not abandoned or forgotten. I pray that you and we are able to take a breath and feel the peace of God. May we all find peace and be still.